All right, welcome back, the genius. So we have actually looked at arrays and we have seen arrays in depth, okay? So let's talk about objects. Okay, yes, we have already mentioned objects earlier on, but we didn't actually go deep into it. So what is an object now? All these things we are teaching you here are the things you use these are the tools you use to work as a developer, as a JavaScript programmer. You'll be using arrays, you'll be using objects a whole lot of times, okay? So that is why we take our time to teach you all these things. So what's an object? Okay, an object, okay, is a collection of key value pairs. Okay, it is a collection of key value pairs where the keys are strings, that's the properties, and the values can be any data type, including functions, okay, which are called methods when inside objects. So look at it. JavaScript is an object-oriented programming language. What does it mean? It means that when you're developing an application, all right, you could be looking at all the things, all the concepts as objects. Let's say you're developing an application that has to do with game. Okay, you're developing a game, and in that game is like a car race. So when you look at it, a car in there is actually an object. Okay, so you can actually look at this car as an object. Okay, look at the driver. The driver of that car is also going to be an object. So an object is just anything that has either properties or fields. Okay, anything that has properties and also has behavior. All right. Sometimes objects might just have only properties, they don't have behavior, but they can have both of them. A car has a property, a car also has a behavior. The properties of a car would be the color of the car, the make of the car, the model of the car, number of wheels, number of the steering, is it right or left? Do you understand? Why the behavior could be run, brake, like to match your brake, accelerate, or maybe match your brake. It could be horn. Do you understand? So these are the behaviors of a car. So when you also look at objects like, let's say you're working on an agricultural project, you could look at, let's say, poultry. All those fowls, okay, they are objects. You could look at the farmer as an object. You could look at the pig as an object. You could look at the plant as an object. Okay. So these are the objects. And the thing is this, we will have key value pairs. The key will be the property. This property could either be the name of the field or the name of the property of that object or the name of its behavior. So the key, and we say is a collection of key value pairs. So the key and the value. So let's take a look at what we are talking about here. So this is the basic syntax. Okay, you start with it's either you use const keyword or let keyword. You give it a name. Now this is an identifier. Okay, this identifier, we are assigning it an object. Okay, so let's go to code. Let me show you. Okay, so let me just take these guys out. Okay, let me just create a new. We have a whole lot of files here. Let me create a new file. I'll call it object.js. Okay, so how do you create an object? You say const, you give it an identifier, which is maybe the variable name, equal to const person equal to these curly braces like this. All right, these curly braces. So now you can actually open it, then you add your key value pair. So the first attribute of a person should be maybe their first name. Okay, so what is their first name? You separate the key and the value with colon. So you can say the person's first name is John. Okay, so this is a value. This is key value pair. Then you say the person's last name. Okay, so John Doe. Now look at the way we are separating the properties, the attributes. You can also go for age. Okay, and you say the age is 90. Look at it. We say that an object is a collection of key value pairs. So this is a key value pair. This is another key value pair separated by comma, another key value pair. So we have three key value pairs here. So this is a collection. It is a collection of key value pairs. So one of this is, look at the key, look at the value. So the key would be a string. Okay, it has to be a string, and the value can be any data type. All right, so this is how you do it. Okay, so now that's what we have here. Okay, so this is how you create an object. Like now, you can also add a behavior. Right now in our code, we don't have any behavior yet. We just have attributes, properties. So how do you add a behavior? You can go down and say behavior. All right. Then this person can actually greet. This person can actually greet. So greet will be the key. Okay. Key. Then what will be the value will now be a function. So you use function to represent a behavior, the property, the value of a behavior. So when we do this, we can just say console.log hello person. Okay, so the logic of this behavior is up to you, depending on your application. So you see, we have key value pairs. We have like 4 key value pairs there. So putting them inside of these curly braces like this, it becomes a collection. So a collection is something of more than one. So we have key value pair. This is a key value pair. This is a key value pair. This is a key value pair. And this whole thing is also a key value pair. And the key and the pair, sorry, the key and the value are separated by colon. So a key value pair, a key value, okay? So key and value, they're always a pair. All right, key value pair. So key and value. So you separate the key from the value with a colon, and you separate the key value pairs with comma. All right. So this is what we have here. So if we go on and say console.log console.log person. All right. So this time around, I'm going to use the terminal. I'm going to use the terminal, and I will say node. I will say node. I'm running object.js. I'm running object.js. So if I hit enter, all right, you see it has printed this object for me. See, it printed the object for me. All right, so you can see key value pairs, and this grid is a function. All right. So, but if you still want to run this thing in the browser, all you have to do is to look for an HTML page like this. Okay. Look for an HTML page like this and change your source to be the place you have your JavaScript. So the place to have it is object.js. Okay. So if I save this thing now and click on go live. If you have live server installed, you click on go live. But if you don't have live server installed, you can also right click and okay, open in live server. Okay, if you're using Visual Studio Code, you're supposed to have this. Okay, so if you click on go live. If you don't know how to install go live, the live server, okay, just click on your extension like this. If you're using Visual Studio Code, search for live server, and you will get something like this. Once you get it, for me, I have installed it. That is why you're seeing it. You will see install if you have not installed it. So if you have installed, you just click on installing it to install. So you see, if you have it, all you have to do is to click on go live. It will open the browser for us. So inspect, right click on the browser and inspect. So you go to your console, that is where you see this object. So if you expand this object, you're going to see age, first name, greet, and last name. All right, so this is the object. But I believe you have Visual Studio Code and you have Node installed. Okay, but if you're just using the IDE, if you're just using the IDE, okay, there is just reach out to us so that we let you know what to do. Okay, but we believe you're using Visual Studio Code. Okay, we believe you're doing that. All right. So, but if in case you're not using that, please reach out to us so that we can show you what to do and how you can run your code, both on our code editor in our website and any other way. All right. Okay. So let's get back to our slide. So this is the basic syntax. So when you can say, if you want to have access uh, the property of this object, you can do the name of the object dot. So this is called dot notation. So you can also call any of them. So if I go back to code, I want to use the dot notation. So I'm not using this. I'll be using the node here. So if I go now and say, if I want to access this person's first name, I will just say person dot. You can see I have IntelliSense here by Visual Studio Code. It will just give me, I'll just select the first name. And when I run, save and run this code, it will give me John. All right, it will give me John. So that is how it works. Okay, so if you want to access the greet method, remember that the greet is a function. So you will have to call it as a function. This greet is a function. You have to put the parentheses like this. If not, it will just print you the definition of that function. So if I go back, run node dot run though, it will call the hello person for me. But if I don't put the parentheses, look at what will happen. It will print out the object for me because it's a function. So, but here we have to call it. We have to call it. So you can also try run without debugging and select Node.js and then go to your debug console. Okay, and it prints it out for you. So this undefined you're seeing here is the return value of this function. All right, every function returns a value. If your function is not returning a value, that means it's going to return undefined. So first of all, this hello person was called here. So after that, this function was returned. This function now returned undefined, and that is what this guy was printing out. So if I don't want to use the console.log to do this, I'll just say person dot greet, and if I save it, run again. Sorry, if I click on run without debugging, I would have hello person. All right. So that was the reason why we are having that undefined printed is because we are using console.log, and console.log, after calling the function will return undefined and it will print it out. That's why. All right. So what are the ways that you use to create objects in JavaScript? There are plenty of them, plenty of them. All right. Depending on what you want to achieve, you use any of these methods. So the first one is the object literal. This is the easiest and the most common. So if you're working on a very simple thing, you can just go on and use the object literal. That's what we have just done. So the object literal is you say const person equal to curly braces, and you can do whatever you want to do. So it's best for simple objects. That's what we have just done here. Okay, we have just created an object literal here. We can also say, okay, let's create a car object. We'll say const, we'll say car, okay, is equal to, this is curly brace, this is an empty object. Do you understand? This is an empty object. And if you try to access um, a field or an attribute that is not in that object, there will be an error. So when you say car, if you say car dot name, okay, if you ever do this, okay, let's save it and run. Let's see what we get. Okay, so let's do console.log. Okay, so it will return undefined. Okay, because it is not available. If you call a property that is not available in an object, it will return undefined for you. It will return undefined because it is not defined, it's not here. So the JavaScript cannot see this property you're trying to access. So this is an empty object. So when you try to access something that does not, that is not in an object, a property that is not in an object, you're going to get undefined. Okay. And if you try to access, okay, let me leave that one. Let me not get us confused. Okay. So now this is how you create object literal. So another one is using the new object constructor method. So if you want to create a car object, you can say car is equal to new object. Now this is provided by JavaScript. Okay, so then you can now be adding their properties like this. So let's go and see how we do this. Okay, so if I don't want to use the object literal, sorry, yeah, the object literal, I can just say const car is equal to, I'll say new object like this. So new object like this, okay? And if I try to print car, I'm going to print an empty object. Basically, it will not be that, and there are other things that might come with it. All right, it's an empty object. So I can just come in here. If you look at this, if you take your mouse over, you'll see that this guy is expecting a value. It's optional. Okay, it's optional. But if you want to add properties or behaviors to it, you can just say car dot name is equal to Toyota. Okay, you can say, oh, sorry, you can say car dot model. All right, it could be anything, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so when you save this thing now and run to print out car, we are going to see the full car object with name and model properties with their key value pairs. Okay, so you can also have access car.name and it will give you like this. So this is using the object constructor. We are using the object constructor here to create this car object. Then we are now assigning properties and values. We are now assigning properties to it with their values. And you can also add, you can say car.drive. You can say car.drive, and it's going to be a function. It can be a function. Okay. And when you want to call it, you can just call it, you can just say car.drive. Then you put it in parentheses to call it. Okay. So this is how you create object using the object constructor. So this works, but not recommended because object literals are more concise. So if you find yourself doing this thing, just use object literals. Object literals are the recommended way of creating objects. Okay? Unless you now have more to do with it. So, but let's go on. So let's use constructor functions. A constructor function is a function that returns an object. So you can use that function to create multiple objects. Okay, so you have seen how to use object literal, you have seen how to use the object constructor. Let's go and see how to use constructor function. Constructor function is just is as simple as um, a function that returns is just a function that returns an object. So I say function, I will call this function car. If I call it car, and this function is going to take in, let's say it will take two parameters. It will take name and it will take module. So if you call this function and pass in, give it name and module, look at what I'm going to do here. So this function is going to return, as you can see, it's returning an object literal. So this object literal, I will say this dot name is equal to name. I can say this dot module is equal to, oops, sorry, it's not even, it's not equal to, it is colon, and I'll say module, okay? And okay, what do we have here? Oh, sorry. Um, Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry about that. No, 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 no. It's not returning anything, please. It's a mistake. Sorry. It is sorry. This is wrong. Sorry, this is wrong. It's just this dot, this dot that, okay? So it will say this dot name is equal to, it's not returning an object. Okay, so but what it's doing here, it is creating this. So we can also say this dot drive, okay, is equal to um, function. Okay, now I can still put this thing here, and this is going to be a function. So now I have this car. Okay, so now I have this car. So if I want to create a, now this is like a blueprint. When you use constructor functions is when you want to create a blueprint. Okay, so this is something we can use it as a class. Even if I take my mouse over this thing, I'm saying this constructor function may be converted into to a class declaration. If I say convert to ESC, it has converted this thing to a class, but that's not what I want, okay? I don't want it to be a class. So I will take it back to what we used to have, please. Okay, I don't want it to be a class. So we'll talk about classes later on, but this function is a car. This car is a function. All right, we are not doing this. And don't worry, we'll talk about classes later on. So what I have here right now is a constructor function. And this constructor function is like I have created a blueprint. And with this blueprint, I can use it to create a lot of, just like when you have a house will have a blueprint. Okay, once it has that blueprint, you can use that same blueprint to build the house different places. So for me to create a lot of cars, I can say const, I can say um, I can say BMW, okay, and I'll say I'll call the function. I will say car, okay, and I'm going to pass in. Oops, sorry. This guy takes name, model, and func. All right. So this car now is expecting car name. So this name is what? The name is BMW. The model is what? I don't even know. I can just say blah, blah, blah. Then the drive, I'll pass in a function like this, an anonymous function like this. Okay. And I can just say console.log. Okay. I'll say I'm driving. Okay. Okay, so you say I'm driving. So now I have created a blueprint for creating cars. I can see just say, okay, I want to create another model of a car. I will now say cons. I will create a Lamborghini. Lamborghini. I hope I'm spelling it correctly. Okay, is equal to car. Then the name is what? Lamborghini. You can see I'm using it to create multiple. I think this is Lamborghini like this. Okay, and the model is what? Blah, blah, blah. And the function would be okay. I can even use arrow function here. Okay, I don't know if we have discussed arrow function, but I can use arrow functions here and say console.log. Um, I am driving a Lambo. Okay. So you can see this is a different way of creating objects. First of all, we created a blueprint. So we are using this blueprint now to create different types of cars with the same one. So this is called a factory function. A factory function is what you use to create. If you want to create, you want to manufacture. That is why it's called factory. You're using it to manufacture different types of the same thing. All right. So when you do this, you can actually, if I say console.log, sorry, if I say console.log, and if I say BMW, and again I say console.log, I will say Lamborghini. So if I run this code now, oops, they are all undefined. What happened? What happened? Sorry, I'm supposed to use the new keyword, okay? This is just syntax. And the thing is this is not my normal way of creating objects. So it is all about syntax. So I was not using the new keyword. I was not using the new keyword, so pardon me. Let's go back and fix our error. So I'm supposed to say new, okay? And I'm also supposed to say new here. So when I run this code now, everything should work perfectly. All right, so you see we have this car, name is BMW, model is this, and drive is a function. So I can just say BMW dot drive. I'll just call the method, and I don't need to console it. I can just call it right away. And when I call it, it's going to say I'm driving. Okay, we call it say I'm driving. Okay, so just be careful with the syntax. So how do you say this function will take in parameters? So inside the parameters, you're going to use this keyword. You say this dot. Now this keyword is actually referring to the object itself. Okay, this keyword is like me. This keyword, you can interpret it as you're saying me. So me dot name. So this keyword here and this keyword in Lamborghini, they are not the same thing. They are going to be two different things. So this keyword, this keyword will refer to the BMW. This keyword in this BMW, this object that we created here, this keyword will be for the BMW, and this keyword for this one will be for the Lamborghini. So if I try to say, after creating this thing, I'll say console.log this. Okay, so let me just take these two guys out. You'll see what we are going to get. It will give us the object, the two objects. You can see this is this keyword here. So this keyword refers, although we'll still have where we explain this keyword very well, but this keyword refers to the object, that particular object you're working with. So right now, this keyword for the BMW is this one, and that's what we have. Remember when we printed console.log.bmw, we got the same thing. And here we are just printing this keyword. So this keyword here will be different from this keyword here. So if you try to check their whether they are equal, they will give you it will not be true. Okay, so but that will be a lesson for another day where we'll talk about this keyword. But for now, just see this keyword as me. Okay, you are a person, I am a person. But this keyword for me is my personality. This keyword for you is your personality. So our personalities differ. All right. So that is how this keyword for different objects will differ. Okay. So now that is how you go about it. So we also have we can also create objects using class syntax. We'll still discuss classes when we start our JavaScript mastery. That is where we teach classes. But for now, you can use classes to create objects. So this is how you do it. I might not want to go deep into classes now, but just have it in mind that you can use classes to create objects too. So let me just show you actually. Let's go on. If I want to create a class here, I can just say, look at what I will do. I will use the class keyword and I'll call it car, and I will put this parenthesis, this curly braces like this. I have created a class, like as you're seeing it now. This is a class. Okay, so if I want to use the constructor of the class, I will say constructor. Okay, and this constructor will take in this thing and go like this. So this constructor, we are not going to discuss classes here. It will be it's a very big topic. Okay, so I think I will just have to forget it. But understand that you use classes to create objects. All right. So if I need to, for me to make you understand it, I need to explain what constructors are and stuff like that. But for now, let's leave it. But just understand that you can use classes to create objects. Okay. We will learn classes in advanced JavaScript course. All right. So we can also use another property in the object. We say object.create. Now, this is when you want to create a prototype-based inheritance. In JavaScript, when we are doing with OOP, all right, there's something we call inheritance. So if you want to create stuff like that, you use the object.create. So this object.create, you first of all, okay, oops, this is somehow advanced, but I will try my best to explain it to you. Okay, I'll try my best to explain it to you. So we haven't talked about inheritance, but so I don't know how to go about this now. Okay. Hmm. Okay, so let's do something here. Let's say I have an object like this. I will say constant. I will say this object is a person. Okay. And this person object has first name. Okay. And the value of this first name is John. Okay. And I have last name. Okay, let me put it this way. Don't worry. Let me use the constructor pattern, the constructor function. So I will say function, and I will call it car. Okay. And it will take in name. All right. That is as simple as it is. So I will now say this dot name is equal to name. Okay, so this is just a car blueprint. Okay, this is a car blueprint. So if I want to create another object out of this, I need to explain inheritance for us to understand this thing. But inheritance is something that is big here. Okay, I need to explain it, but I don't know how to explain inheritance without confusing you more. So now look at what we are doing here. We are saying object.create. So we can create an object out of another object. That's the best explanation I will give you here. All right. I cannot explain inheritance because it's bigger than this course. So if I say we can create objects out of other objects, just understand it that way. So first of all, we have this proto object. That's what we have created here. And we are now creating another object out of this proto object. So we now say object.create. So this object.create can take in null, it can take an empty object, it can take another object like this. So what you're doing here is that whatever object you create out of using the object.create, all right, is going to inherit every other. Now this object guy here will inherit every other thing that this proto guy has because we are creating this new object out of the proto guy, just like Eve was created out of Adam. Okay, so we are using the object.create method to create a new object out of an existing object. Just take it like that. Okay, so this is great for inheritance without classes. Okay, but this is advanced. Prototype is advanced. We'll talk about it in our JavaScript mastery class. Okay, so basically you're using the object.create to create a new object out of an old object. So this create can take in null. Okay, it can take in an empty object or it can take an existing object. All right. So using factory functions. Sorry, the other time it was a constructor function, not even factory. I was mistaking this. So the other one we did was constructor function. That car we created using function was a constructor function. This one is called a factory function. So a factory function will return an object. So the factory function will return an object. So the other one we were doing was constructor function. Sorry, my bad. Okay, factory function is will return an object, while a constructor function is just a function that you use the new keyword to call. So, but this one, when you have this thing like this, you don't need to use the new keyword. If you watch, the mistake I made before was I wasn't using the new keyword. So you can just have a simple object that takes in some parameters and return an object. Okay, so let me show you. We have seen the constructor function. That is how we used to create the car that we had before. So if we want to have a factory function here will simply have, will simply take in parameters, then it will now return an object. So this factory function will take in, let's say, name and model. Okay, sorry. So I can just say name is name and the model is model. Okay. Now, if I do this, I can come and say, I can create a new function from it, like a new object, like say, I will say obj, and I will say is equal to, I just call the function car, passing the parameters. I can just say BMW, and then the model could just be blah, blah, blah. So if I go on to print this new object that I have created using the factory function, I can just say console console.log. So I have created an object using the factory function. So if I save this thing and run it, it will print out this new object that we have here. So I'm using a function. Give me the function will take in some parameters and return an object. This is another way of creating objects. So this is called factory functions. The other one we did before was a constructor function. Okay, but you see, I'm not using the new keyword here, but in the other one, when we created the car, we used the new keyword. So that one is a constructor function, and this one is a factory function. Okay, so how do you work with object properties and methods? We have already seen that, okay? You can create an empty object, then add in properties. You have seen me do this already, okay? You have seen me do this already. You can create an empty object. Even this object that I have now, I can even add, I can say obj dot, um, um, what other thing? I can say color. And I will say the color is equal to red. So if I print this object now, you're going to see we are going to have color as part of the properties. You see, I can just add it here. And I can also change, I can also update it. I can say obj dot, I can say name. I'm changing the name now. Remember, it was BMW that we gave it before. So when I can change the name and say it is no longer BMW, it is now I just want a short name. I can just say Benz, okay? I can just say, um, I don't know, anything that just coming to my mind now, okay? So look at what we are doing here. First of all, when we call this, all right, we were having it as BMW, the name as BMW, but right now we are changing it here. So look at it. If I run this code now, it's no longer going to be, okay, before I run this code, before I update it, if we run this code, we are going to get the name as BMW because that's what we specified here. But if I run this code, object.name equal to Toyota, I'm now updating it. So this is how you update it. If I run it, it's no longer going to be BMW, it's going to be Toyota. So this is how you update objects. Okay, and when you do this, you're actually going to get it. So how do you delete a property in an object? As simple as calling the delete keyword and then call the object property. All right. So if I go on and say, look at it, if I go on and say, already we have added the color. Okay. If I want to delete, okay, let me delete the model. I will just say obj.model. So if I print this object now, this model will no longer be part of it. So if I click on it, run, you see the model is no longer part of it because we have deleted it here. Okay, so how do you check if a property exists in an object? Because sometimes you need to check. So you can say, you can use the name of the property in string like this and say in object. So if I go on and say, okay, I want to check if after deleting this model object, I want to check to say, let me check if this guy exists. If I call the, if I call the, if I say in quote, okay, look at it. Let me make it this way. I can say const, I can just say result is equal to, I can say model like this. Okay, because this is the key. All right, this is the key. I can say model like this in object. So what am I doing? I'm asking JavaScript to check for me. Do I have a model key in this object? Remember, we have deleted it, so it will tell us no. So if I go on and say console.log res, of course it will be false because it does not exist anymore because we have deleted it. So if I go and run without debugging, it will give us false. It doesn't exist because we deleted it. But if I go on and comment this guy, it exists now because we no longer delete it. It will give us true. So you might want to do something, you might want to do some conditional some conditional things. You can say if this is this. Okay, look at what I'm going to do. I will say if, because this thing returns it returns a Boolean expression. If I say if this is in object, do something. I can say console dot log. So you can say this thing returns a Boolean expression. So you can use it in an if statement. I can just say object dot model. So before I access that property, I want to check first. All right. So this doesn't exist again. So we don't have rest again. So if I go on and run this, it will print it for us because it exists. This is going to be true. So when you say model like this in parent in quote in object, it will give you either true or false. There's another way you can also check. You can also say, does that object dot has own property? You can say object dot has own property. So let's go and check it. I can say, instead of doing this model in object, I can change it and say obj, which is the variable, the object identifier dot has own property. Okay, is it a function or just a, okay, it's a function that will not take the name, it will take the name of the key of the property you're asking for. So we have color. Yeah, we have color. So it will just, if this is true, it will print the color for us. As simple as that. So we are saying object dot has own property. If it will either return true or false. So depending on the value, this guy will be called. So I can say run without debugging, and it is red because yeah, it exists. But if I say anything, if I just say colors, of course, that we don't have any property that is color, so it will print nothing. Okay, nothing will happen. So this is how you check if an object exists, if a property exists in an object. Okay, so we can also add methods. You have seen how we have added some greet methods. So as simple as this is how you can actually add some methods, okay, to an object. Okay, look at the way we have been doing it. Okay, this is another way. So this is the way we have been doing it. Instead of we could say, okay, in this object that we are returning, we could just say greet. We could just say drive like this. This drive we can say is a function. Okay, we can do it like this. Okay, and put in our logic, or we can also say speed. Okay, we can just say okay, we can say stop. Okay, and we can just put it like this. This also works. No, what's happening? Great. Okay, it's supposed to what? So what's my error? What's my error? Okay, so I'll put a comma. I didn't put comma. That was why we were having that error. So this works. So it's either you do drive or you use stop. Look at the way I did it. I created it as a property and gave it a value. Or you can also do it this way. Just give it a name, then parentheses and put your this. So if I just go and say, let me call this stop, I can say console.log. I can just say stop. So if I want to access this method, now all I have to do is I got to do all these things. I can just say obj dot stop. If I call it as a function like this and run my code, I'm going to get stop. Okay, so I can also access the drive method. So these are two ways you can actually create methods in your objects. Okay. So thank you very much. Make sure you do your assignment. Make sure you write your test. Make sure if you have any difficulty, please reach out to us, okay? Thank you very much and have a great day.